Okay, hello and welcome to the Backyard Experience Sip and Paint. Today we are going to be painting this beautiful cityscape and it's going to have a sunset background. But for starters, we will be painting the city skyline itself. Now you have two brushes. They are both angular. One is larger than the other. For the city skyline, we're going to be starting with our smaller angular brush. And we're going to be using the color black to begin with. So you just dip it in. Now I like to start in upward strokes, just into the middle, stroke up. And now when it comes to the outline, we see that outline is already here for us. I take the edge of the brush and I line it up with the outline and I stroke down into the middle. That way we can keep it neat and clean and we are painting in the lines. So after I stroke down into the middle, I can go from the bottom of the canvas up and just meet it. And again, upward strokes. Now here, same thing. I'm lining up the edge of the brush with the outline of the building and stroking into the middle. And I'm using shorter, choppier strokes into the middle to keep it clean. And you're just gliding your brush sideways. So you just hold it sideways into the middle, into the middle, into the middle. Get some more paint. And then we're going to go upwards to meet it. So back into the middle. So easiest thing to do is focus on going into the middle of the drawing just to keep everything neat and clean. Now this one, same thing. We line it up with the edge and stroke inwards. And we're just making a little triangle just to complete the left side here. Use the side of your brush into the middle. Edge of your brush. And same thing. Line up, side right here. Edge of your brush. Line it up with the outline and bring it into the middle. Now some more paint. Go an upward stroke starting from the bottom. And when I do my strokes, I like to hold the brush so that it's flat against the canvas, as you can see. And I line it up again with the outline, line the edge of my brush with the outline, and bring it in to the middle. Edge of the outline, bring in. And your edge of your brush is already straight, so it's just to help with those straight lines and to keep them within the lines. And same thing, lining it up and bringing it in. Now to do this skinny part right here, you see how our brush is angled. So we're going to use the tip of our brush right here. We're going to hold it long ways like this. And using that longer part of your angled brush, we're going to stroke down. And just stroke down. And you're doing it with the pencil. Again, line up with the edge, bring that down and back up. So we're going to follow this same format for the rest of our city outline. It's going to be in black, so it's just the silhouette of the city outline here. And again, for some of the tighter spaces, turn your brush around and use the longer end, the higher end here. And that'll help with your control so that's not messy. So you can go ahead and follow those tips for the rest of the city outline. Okay, just checking in. And again, we're still using the black with our small angular brush. And we just stroke inwards to the middle. And all of our strokes are going to be meeting in the middle at the end. Line up your brush with the edge and bring it in. And to fill in some of the white gaps, you can use shorter, choppier strokes like this, just to cover in any white gaps that you see. And again, it helps to keep everything clean and in the lines. And you can just do that going all the way down the outline. For this space right here, I'm going to take a little bit more paint. I'm going to start from the bottom using my brush flat, lining my brush up with the bottom of the canvas and going up in one motion. Here, an outline. So I'm going to line my brush up, the flat edge to the outline. And in one stroke, bring it down to the bottom of the canvas. Line my brush up with the outline. One stroke, bring it into the middle. Line my brush up, one stroke, bring it to the middle. Grab some more paint and just repeat it over here because we do have some white spaces here. So I'm just going to line my brush up again and in one stroke, bring to the middle. Now I turn my brush in the opposite direction to also help fill in those white gaps. Line my brush up with the edge. One stroke, bring down. Line my brush up with the outline. One stroke, bring it down. Go in the the opposite direction to fill in the white gaps. In this case, now I'm going to stroke upwards from the bottom of the canvas to the middle. Line my brush up with the outline. Bring into the middle. Bring into the middle. This one, since it is on a slant, line my brush up and kind of diagonally stroke down to the middle. Now again here we have one of those tight spaces, so we're going to use the edge of our brush and we're going to try to use the higher part of the slant. So just color that in. I'm going in a downward stroke just to color in that little gap. Edge of the outline, bring to the middle. Go in the opposite direction to fill in that white gap right there. And I'm just going to use the higher end of the slant and go in downward strokes, shorter downward strokes to fill in these gaps here. I'm going to go from the bottom up in an upward stroke. Line the brush up, go in a downward stroke. Starting from the bottom of the canvas, stroke up. There's a little white gap, so since I went upwards, I'm going to go in the opposite direction to cover it. So now I'm going to stroke downwards. Line up my brush, bring it into the middle. Line up my brush, bring it to the middle. There's a smaller space, so again, I'm going to use the higher end of the angle. Going downward strokes. So since I lined my brush up and went from right to left, and I have some white space, and now I'm going to take my brush and go left to right to fill it in. So we're just going to continue to follow this pattern for the remainder of this outline for the city. Okay, so we should have finished painting our silhouette of the city outline in black. If you are still painting, no rush, take your time. We're just going to move on to step 2, and we're going to start with our background now. So again, out of the 2 brushes, I'm going to now use the larger angular brush. So I'm going to mix black and blue to start off with. So I'm going to take a little black, and I'm just going to add it here on my palette. And I'm going to rinse my brush a little bit because now I'm going to dip it into the blue. I'm going to take my blue and just mix it together with my black. The goal is to make a dark blue. So you want to make a darker blue, and this is going to be for the top part of our canvas. So once we've mixed it into a dark shade of blue that you like, using the edge of the brush, I'm going to line it. I'm going left to right. So I'm going to start on the left end of my canvas, flatten my brush, and in one stroke, just bring it across. So you see how it started to whiten out as the paint started to run out. So again, with the same kind of technique as the outline on the bottom, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. So now I'm going to go right to left to fill in those gaps of white. Now be careful not to color in your moon just yet. That'll be a different color. So try to stay on the outline of the moon. I'm just going to bring it across. Again, white gap. So now I'm going to take the edge of my brush, line it up with the right side of the canvas, and stroke from right to left. Now for these lines here, I'm going to use the edge of my brush and just in shorter strokes fill in my white gaps. And I'm just doing longer strokes throughout just to even everything out here. I'm going to take a little bit more of my paint of the dark colors that I mixed together, so some more of my dark blue. And now with the sky, you don't have to be neat. You can get messy and go in different strokes, and it's okay if there is white spaces here, because whatever is left white will fill in with a different color. So all of our colors are going to merge together. So, and again, I'm using the edge of my brush. I'm going sideways, and I barely have any paint on here. I'm just wiping off whatever paint is left on my brush. And again, make sure that you leave the middle of your moon white. Do not color in your moon yet. Okay, so this is going to be it for the dark blue. So we see that it's a little lighter than black. In some areas we have a greenish blue showing. That is perfectly fine. Now we're going to go in with just a solid color blue. So rinse your brush off so that it's not dark anymore. I'm going to dip it in the blue. And I'm not mixing anything, I'm just using blue. And I want to leave a white space in between my dark color and where I'm going to set my blue. So I want to leave a little space here. So I'm going to do strokes left to right with the side of my brush. Bring it into the middle. And bring it across to the right side. So I'm drawing a line. And I'm going to bring my color upwards so that it meets the dark color. So I'm bringing it up. I can fill in the white gaps with the solid blue. And I'm using shorter strokes for the sky. Shorter, choppier strokes. And I'm going left to right. Add a little bit more. Now again, because I just added more paint, I want to start off on that middle line and bring my color upwards. Being careful not to color in my moon. And I can bring my color into those white gaps where the dark paint was. I can fill in the white gaps of the dark paint with the solid blue color. Okay, so just checking in on how you guys are doing, painting the blue. Now towards the bottom, take a little bit, you want your brush to barely have paint on it. You want it to kind of have more white strokes in the middle because we're going to be fading this into the next color. So we're going to make slight lines and we want it, I'm going left and right, left and right, left and right, and just using whatever paint is left on my brush, mainly in the middle, and dragging it down to the bottom, just in left and right strokes. Whatever's left on my brush, just bring it down to the middle. Left and right strokes. So we should have more white spacing in the middle. It shouldn't be so vibrant as the blue right here. It should have more white because we're going to fade this into the next color and blend it all together. And again, in between the darker blue and the lighter blue, it's okay if there's white spaces here because whatever color we use next, we can fill in those white spaces with that new color. So again, the sky could be a little messy. You can get messy with it. It does not have to be perfect. All right. So I will tune back in with the next color. Alrighty guys, so just to do a quick recap check-in point, we painted our city outline in black. We mixed black and blue together to get a darker color on the top part of our canvas. Then we used just the blue in the middle and we dragged it upwards to blend into the darker part, and we dragged it downwards. So now what we're going to do is, using the big brush again, make sure you rinse it off in your water. We're going to grab a little bit of blue And we're going to mix that with pink. So once you grab your blue, rinse your brush off. Then grab your pink. And you're going to mix that with your blue color. So adding a little bit more pink, and you can add more pink in. You are trying to get more of a purple color going. And it's whatever purple you like, so you can add as much pink or as much blue. I'm going to add some more. So to get a good purple, this was the color purple I ended up getting. I would use less blue and more pink. It makes it easier to blend. But if you accidentally used more blue, it's okay. Just keep adding pink and mixing it and it'll turn purple. So once you got the color that you like, again, we're going to leave a little space in between the blue and where I'm going to add the purple. And starting from left to right, I'm going to do short strokes into the middle. And I'm just going to bring my color upwards to meet the blue. And now I'm doing longer strokes as I go. I do shorter strokes around the city so that I don't get the purple onto the black. But since I am further away from the city outline, I can do longer strokes. And I'm going left to right, into the middle. Then flip my brush, start from the right side of the canvas, and same thing, longer strokes into the middle. Bring it into the blue. Any white spaces that you have, you can use the edge of your brush to fill them in shorter strokes. Now we do have white spaces up here, so we can fill those white spaces in with this purple. I'm using a little bit, and so it goes on an angle. I'm using a higher angle to fill in the white spaces. Using the edge of the brush, just going side to side. Wherever I see a white space, I'm just filling it in side to side with whatever paint is left on my brush. So as I'm approaching the moon, I'm going to use shorter strokes just to control the brush so that my paint doesn't get in the middle of the moon, because I'm still leaving that bling. Add a little bit more paint And when I say a little bit, really just a little bit, I'm just dabbing my brush into the purple mixture. And then stroking to fill in those white spaces. And again, I'm filling in the white spaces with the darker blue and black. I'm filling in those white spaces with the purple. Shorter strokes, bringing it back down to the middle where the purple is, and then bringing it up into the blue. So I'm mixing the blue and purple. So that the colors overlap each other. Finishing off whatever paint is on my brush below the purple on the bottom, going closer towards the city. Again, it's okay if you leave white spaces because we'll be filling them in with pink. Okay, you guys can keep doing this and I'll check back in with you when we're ready for pink. Okay, so we should be done with our purple. If you are still purpling up your sky, that is perfectly fine. Do what you have to do, but we're going to move on to step 3, and that's going to be with our pink. So now we are only using the color pink. We're not mixing the pink with any colors. And we're going to follow this same format. So you want to leave a little bit of a space in between the purple and where we're going to put our pink. Just draw a line. Again, shorter strokes because now we are approaching the city outline and we don't want our pink to touch the city. So shorter strokes. I'm going left to right and I am moving my pink upwards into the purple. Moving it upwards into the purple. Any white gaps that I have in my purple, I'm going to fill it in with my pink. And I'm using my brush, I'm holding it sideways so that it's on an angle. And I'm doing longer strokes as I'm away from the city, just to color in those white spaces. And by doing this, now we are mixing the pink and purple together so that our sky flows. Go back to our original line where we drew for the pink, and we can take that paint and we're going to bring it up into the purple. So shorter strokes upwards. Again, be careful as we approach the city. You don't want any paint to get onto the buildings. Shorter strokes will help with that. So shorter, choppier strokes. And as we're away from the buildings, we can do longer strokes. I'm going left to right, still using the edge of my brush. Left to right. All over to the right side. Shorter strokes, shorter strokes. Again, I'm approaching the city, so I just want to be careful so that I don't get any pink on my buildings. If you do, it's perfectly okay. We can always go back with the black color to color it in again. Now, For my painting and possibly for yours as well, I can see here that I still have some white spaces in the upper region where I had the black and the blue. So I'm going to lightly dab the edge of my brush. I'm going to dab the brush into the pink. So there's not too much on my brush, as you can see. And I'm going to fill in those white spaces with the pink. So I'm filling in the white spaces between the blue and the black, and I'm just filling that in with pink. Again, this is to help merge the sky, all the colors in the sky together. I'm using shorter strokes. I'm using the edge of my brush where I have the paint, and I'm going in shorter strokes from left to right. Shorter strokes, left to right. Shorter strokes, left to right. Shorter strokes, left to right. Again, I'm just going to dab it in so that the edge of my brush lightly has paint on there. It's not too much paint. Short strokes, left to right, fill in the white spaces. And you want it to be shorter, choppier strokes because you still want the other colors to show. You're not coloring completely over it, over the other colors. You want the blue to show, you want the purple to still show, and you just want some pink mixed in with there. Again, lightly dab it so that the edge of my brush has some paint, not too much paint. I'm going to start to fill in the bottom where my full pink is. I'm doing light strokes from left to right, wiping off some of the paint. And I want to bring my pink, again, whatever's left on my brush, there's not much pink left, but I do want to bring that into the blue, just to merge the blue and the purple together. So lightly dab paint. I took a little bit too much here, as you can see. So since I have too much, I'm going to bring it down to where I have my regular pink. I'm going to go in light strokes left to right to wipe some of that paint off. And then whatever I have left on my brush, you see the line here? There's a distinct line between my blue and my purple. I'm going to add pink there and go in light strokes, light choppy strokes, just to merge my purple and blue, so it doesn't look so blocked off. Whatever is left on my brush, I'm just going to bring it down into the middle of the buildings. Whatever's left, just drag it down. And I'm doing that in shorter strokes as well, from left to right, and just bringing it into the middle so that it doesn't touch the buildings. I'm going to dab a little bit, pulling a little bit of pink on here. I'm going to go to the right side just because I have more white spaces here that I want to fill in. So light strokes from left to right with the edge of my brush. I'm just going to fill that in. Being careful not to get any pink on my building. Whatever I have left on my brush, I'm going to stroke left to right and bring it down into the middle. So you guys can continue doing this until we move on to our next color. All right, welcome back. So you should have been done mixing your pink in. Just to do a very quick recap on what we've done so far. So we've colored in our city outline black. We mixed black and blue together for the top part of our canvas. We used just regular blue. Then we mixed our blue and pink to make a pastel purple. We merged our purple and blue together. Then we took our pink and we used pink to fill in any white gaps that we had. So now we're going to be moving on to step 5 and we're going to be making the color orange. So to do that, I'm using, again, out of the 2 angled brushes, I'm going to use our smaller brush now because I'm going to be painting closer into the city and the buildings, and I don't want to get any of my orange on the buildings, so it'll be easier to control with the smaller angled brush. So to create the orange, I'm going to take a little bit of red, and you can rinse your brush off in your water. Now I'm going to take more yellow than I did red because I want my orange to be lighter rather than darker. So I'll take more yellow paint on my brush and I'll mix that with my red. And you just mix until you get the color the color orange that works best for you. I wanted my orange to be more of a pastel, lighter color orange. If you want it more vibrant, then you would add less yellow and more red, and that would make it darker. So once I mixed it, following the same format that we have been following, I'm going to leave a gap in between the pink and the orange. So I'm going to start off on an angle on the end of the left side of my canvas, using the side of my brush, doing short strokes into the middle, being careful not to get any orange on my building. It helps to leave a little bit of white space in. We can go in later and fill that in. Going into the middle. And I'm going to bring it upwards in short strokes from left to right and mix it into the pink. And you can even continue to bring it up, mix it into the blue, mix it into the purple. You can fill in any white spaces with the orange. I'm filling in my white spaces by turning my brush sideways, using the edge of the brush, and doing just short strokes to fill in whatever white gaps are there. I'm going up into the darker area with the blue and the black. I'm filling in those gaps with the orange. And this is just with whatever paint is left on my brush. Again, we use whatever paint is left on the brush so that it doesn't paint over the colors we already have. It's just to fill in the white gaps. I'm gonna go down the end of my, I just dabbed my brush just lightly so that there's only a little bit of paint on the end of it. And using the same technique that I did for the buildings, I'm going to line my brush up with the side of the building and stroke into the middle. Line my brush up with the edge of the building, stroke into the middle. Line my brush up and into the middle. Okay guys, welcome back. So we just finished our orange. We've blended our orange into the pink and in the white spaces up top, wherever there were any, you could have filled that in with the orange. Still using our smaller angular brush, we're going to use the color yellow. So I'm just going to dip it in. Use a good amount of yellow. Now, again, we're going to leave a space in between the orange and where we'll start our yellow. So starting on the left side, using shorter strokes going left to right, into the middle, nearing the buildings but not touching them, and bringing it down in short strokes. And we can start bringing the color up into the orange. Still going left to right into the middle of the canvas. So going close to the buildings but not touching them. I'm using the flat end of my brush just to smooth out the edges on the edge of the canvas itself. Now again, using the same technique, we're going to use the edge of our brush. We're going to put it on the outline of the building. So for this bottom part, bottom left, I'm lining my brush up with the edge of the building and stroking upwards. Stroking upwards. Line up the edge of the building, stroke upwards. Same thing on this side, line up the edge of the building. Now I'm going to stroke right to left into the middle. Line up the edge of the building, right to left into the middle, and shorter, choppier strokes. So here it's a tighter space, so using the same technique as the buildings, we're going to use the higher end of the angle and do short strokes. I'm going down upwards. So I'm doing upward strokes. Alright, same thing. Edge of the brush, line it with the edge of the building, and stroke inwards from left to right. Any tighter spaces, you're going to use the taller end of the angle to fill them in. For this space in between these two buildings, I'm going in upward strokes. Into the building and bring it into the middle. So we're going to continue using this technique to fill in the white spaces behind the buildings, and we will check back in. Okay guys, welcome back. At this point, we should have finished coloring in yellow behind our buildings. So we're going to take our last color, and that is our white, and we're going to color in our moon. So at this point, if you accidentally colored it in, it is okay because we'll be going over it with white. So again, using our smaller angular brush, I'm going to use the longer part of the angle. I'm going to dip it into the white. So as you can see, I dipped the longer part into the white, and using that in downward strokes, I'm going to paint the middle of the moon. And I'm just doing shorter strokes going downwards. This is to keep everything controlled. And again, I'm going to dip it in the longer part of the angle. And I'm just only using the longer part. I'm going to dab little dots on the top part, and these are going to be our stars. So I'm doing mine in different sizes and just randomly throughout the top part of my canvas. Dipping a little bit more. You can do as many or as little as you'd like. I'm just doing it around. And once you are done adding your stars throughout your canvas, you are completely finished. And don't forget, as all artists, to sign your name at the bottom. And you are done.